And yes, indeed, as I promised you guys, I always keep my promises to you guys, we're going to clue up our look at the Legacy Evolution Junkions by putting them all together as a version of Junkasaurus. This is not necessarily the version that we have seen going around social media. It's from a few different kind of fan modes and some ideas of my own that I put together here. We'll see how well this works, how well it holds together, how well it stacks up with other mainline combiners, and we're going to have a bit of fun seeing kind of how all of these can be manipulated and maneuvered to give us quite an odd looking combiner. The made up Junkasaurus is going to be our focus this time around in the latest GotBot True review. Hey one, hey all, welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, your most humble of hosts, Dennis Moulton, aka GotBot. As always, please like, comment, share, of course subscribe, and while you are at it, light 'em up, baby. Hit that notification bell, please. It helps me out a ton, and it'll let you know when content of all sorts goes up here on the channel. Check out Machinery of Man, The Everything Factor, all the groups that I'm either a mod or an admin for, as well as all of my social media links. All of that is in the description down below. Also in the description down below, and if you're in a position to help the channel to grow, you can use the donate link. Check us out on Patreon, see what we have to offer to you through spring, or of course hit the join button at any given time and become a channel member. And this is a version of Junkasaurus. I have made some changes. I took some inspiration from some other fan modes. I had some of my own ideas. It's kind of like taking, building blocks, whether you use, Creos or Legos or any of the other type of building blocks out there. Pardon me. This is like Transformers' answer to that. And shockingly, as you can see me holding this is fairly sturdy. Not perfect, fairly sturdy. How about we see how this goes together and how well it actually works when we head over to the table and take a closer look at this guy. And indeed, to kind of clue up our recent sort of foray into junkions, I know, I still have to get back and finish off some of the KO Beast War stuff. We'll get to it, I haven't forgotten about it. But a lot of people asked me, how did I do my version of Junkasaurus? A little bit different than what we've seen done in other places, where he's sort of on all fours, and I think maybe a little bit more stable than what some of the other combinations have been. This is a bit of an amalgamation of a few different inspirations, so I'll show you what I did and how well it works and kind of how it compares to another combiner here. We're going to just take the legs and lay them aside, as well as the arms for now, and lay them all aside, and we're only going to focus first on like the torso and what I did to sort of prepare this to get it in order. Okay, so this is the main torso that we're going to be working off of, and really it's kind of the top of the truck. What we did is we sort of started to do the transformation. The arms are folded back as they should be, and the roof section is left back. These pieces that normally folded on the side, we leave them up along with the hips. The hips are all left up. On, I guess, the knees, we put those two spike cylinders. That's just where I chose to put them. Same with the exhaust pipes here on the side. I don't know what we call this whole piece here, it plugs into this brown section that's supposed to flip back. It allows the head to have a little bit, because of the hips and stuff, the head has a little bit of a range of movement, but no real side to side. So up and down, and then this wiggle, but no actual side to side. Now that we have, and you can see, oh, this is just a piece of oh my goodness, I can't remember the name of this junkion. The purple one, the Decepticon one. It's eluding me right now. I'll get to it in a bit. But like that goes there. As well, the crash bar exhaust, I suppose, I put it on the sides where the two pegs are on either side, I suppose, and they go across the back. Add some stability having it across the back. I also find that for the hands, I need to have them in this position where the fists are back and the blaster sections are out front, but that's just me. Then we get to the legs, and the legs are pretty unique, honestly. So let's bring in axle grease. Oh, axle grease, that's it, that's the name, axle grease. And we're gonna just lay this aside for a moment, but like here's axle grease in. Axle grease is obviously a leg that will attach right here. Same with toe line, honestly. So I'm gonna bring in both toe line and axle grease. All we did for this transformation is we took the front and brought it out, and then we bent the back end, which is easy to do because that's really where this naturally bends from anyway. Then we took what is the lower leg of Trashmaster, and we folded it up as if we were going to transform it to truck mode. We detached it at the knee, and then we put the peg of the knee into the I guess section on the back where normally we would stick the like spiked spare tire. Well, on this guy we would stick the spiked spare tire. But we end up with two legs. Very simple. You're basically in vehicle mode with the back out and the bottom out. And we basically have the vehicle mode version of this lower leg done. And using this peg hole in between the tires, I suppose you could use either of the tires if you really wanted, but this peg hole in between the tires, that's where you're going to slot the peg that is part of the exhaust, I suppose, for Crash Bar. And this guy will fit in between. I'm going to adjust the camera with his legs on so you can see how kind of tall he gets, you know, from head to toe. And yes, indeed, we can see our boy now with his weird legs between this kind of knee hinge here and like this joint down here. You can sort of get a knee. He can certainly like bend over and that sort of stuff. But we'll see the articulation later when we get everything together. Are there articulation limits? Yeah, absolutely. Like for example, because of the way that this is done, he's not going to be able to kick out to the side, right? He can't do splits to the side. So that's something that, you know, it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. Then we get to the arms, and they were a little bit of a challenge. We're going to do the one that most people have kind of sort of seen first, which is this arm. This is Crash Bar. And the way that I did it, realizing it's going to have to go in here, was first I used the peg back on the back tire of Crash Bar, but this leg on my Crash Bar is quite loose at the connection here at the thigh. So I actually ended up having to use these two pieces that are part of, I think they are part of Crash Bar. I think they're his like saddlebags. I think that's what they're called, saddlebags. The side things. And I have them put in such a way that it really solidifies the bicep. Then I took this lower front piece. It's the grill and the front tire of Trashmaster, and you know, unpeg it from here, I think, or maybe it's this peg here. And using the armature that would go up over, I pegged that on. And now using this peg back here, all of that kind of goes in to become part of the shoulder. Pretty darn solid. A little hard, though, to try and see to do it on camera here. I'm going to get that on and then we'll look at the other arm, which was the biggest challenge. Now before we get back to the full combined form, I did want to kind of show this arm off because most people that have seen this have seen two Crash Bars used as the arms. And I wondered, is there a way to use one of these molds as one of the arms? So I gave it a try. Again, we have that same front tire and grill and piece here. Now it's slotted in right there, and of course slotted in on the tire itself. Again, we're going to use the peg on the back to put it in the arm. If we pull the toes out, we do get a full outward motion. I used a couple of the hooks and stuff to kind of give like a three-fingered sort of claw hand thing. The elbow as it is now sort of bends out the wrong way, but the arm can go out, so at least he can sort of strike and stuff. I need to see if there's a way I can sort of finagle the waist or something to give. Maybe if I like transform the legs themselves somehow or something, I don't know. But if there's a way for me to kind of reposition and reorient the elbow, I will. But again, using that flap on the side and this peg here, we're going to put this on the other side of our combiner so that he looks like this. And here we have my version of the Junkasaurus junkion kind of combiner next to a Combiner Wars combiner. So yeah, he would be able to like kind of stack up and match up with other combiners. At least, you know, if you're a mainline collector, obviously he wouldn't work with like MP combiners and that sort of stuff, right? But yeah, like he definitely has the bulk and the heft to match up in this department. So in terms of looks, let's say it would be a 10. We don't have anything to compare it to. Ideally, I feel like the lower body, the two legs, would be the same sort of browns and oranges and beiges and grays as the upper body is. But this certainly gives you an idea of how it could go together. The legs are definitely more solid and easier to transform than the two arms. I specifically think the crash bar arm is the hardest one to do anything with and accomplish anything with because of the looseness of the thigh connection on mine. But I'm going to say the transformation to get here wasn't too hard, an 8 maybe, roughly, to get here. So the look, a 10, the transformation an 8, right now it's, say, a 9. However, then we get to the articulation, and that is something to consider if you want this guy. He looks great on the shelf, but in terms of functionality, leaves something to be desired. Let's do the articulation here really, really quick. I already showed how the head can go left and right, and that the mouth can open and close. But the head doesn't really go up or down, and it wiggles, but it doesn't really turn left, right. So that's a bit of a limit. When we get to the arms here, we have, I guess you could say, a little bit of a butterfly because of the thing that it's on, and because of this armature out here, the arm can move up. It doesn't really, it doesn't really stay up because it's somewhat loose. So if we're doing like a battle pose or something, you're really gonna have to probably rest the arm on something. This one does like to come apart. We do have a little bit of an elbow here. And again, because of the way the thigh stuff is, you would have a bicep swivel. On this side, we have a little bit different because we're using a different mold, where if we have these out, we can bring the arm all the way out to the side. Again, it could go up and down because of the armature, but it's not going to hold that pose. We do have a weird elbow there. When we get to the waist, no waist. When we get to the legs, they can go forward and back just fine, but they can't go out to the side. And when we're talking about like the knee, oh, see, this just sort of fell on me. When we're talking about the knee, it goes at this hinge here and at this hinge back here. So the articulation, like he could definitely be more stable, and the articulation is a consideration. For display purposes, he's fine, but the articulation overall is probably only about a 5, 5.5, and it takes that 9 down to about a 6.5, maybe a 7. It's the sort of combiner that when you do it, it's really interesting to see how you can hodgepodge these guys together, and it looks great and menacing on a shelf. If you actually want to use it, until me or you or someone figures out a more, at least solid connection for the arms, it does leave something to be desired. Before the arms went on, I was okay with the legs. I'm okay with his balance even. We just needed to be able to do something a bit better with the arm. And you know what? Maybe somebody better than me could figure out something a little more solid again. Nevertheless, it's really great to see that the Junkions can indeed go together into some sort of mammoth, wild sort of combiner. Overall score about a 7, maybe a little less, maybe 6.5, 7, around there. It's fun. Just wish it was a little more functional. And here we are once again, and here he is. So putting them together, fairly easy, although I wish that the connection at the thigh for Crash Bar was a bit better. Over on the other side with Scraphook, I kept forgetting his name through the review. Scraphook is a fine arm, nice chunky arm. I do have to figure out a better elbow. As for the shoulders, they can go all the way around, but we don't really have any out to the side. There's a slight butterfly there. The head, of course, as you know, can wiggle, waggle left to right. The mouth and stuff can open. And the legs can go forward and back with kind of a knee, but can't do splits to the side. So no, it's not a perfect combiner by any stretch of the imagination. And with more Junkions and more bits and more pieces, I'm sure this guy could be a little more solid and a little more impressive. But as he is, he could look great on a shelf. He would look excellent next to other combiners. But when it comes to functionality, you got to understand that, you know what, there are going to be limitations. Looks, he's top notch. Functionality, it'd be nice if we had just a little bit more movement. And maybe there are people that will come up with other fan modes where he does have more movement. I'm happy with them as is, but it's fun to tinker and see what else we can come up with. Let me know what you think about Junkasaurus, this version or whatever version you use. I think it's a neat idea for the Junkions. I appreciate you guys coming by, giving me some of your extremely valuable time. I do know how important it is to you. If you're in a position to help the channel to grow, you can use the donate link. Check us out on Patreon. See what we have to offer to you through spring, or of course hit the join button at any given time. While you're at it, please hit the subscribe button, man. Stick around and have some fun with us here on the channel. And especially don't forget that somehow, some way, each and every single day, you right there, you do make a difference in the world, and I look forward to the next time that you and I get together to have another visit, either in the live streams on Thursday nights, at the stop motion premieres, or the old-fashioned way, right here inside the videos.